Private payrolls coming in, the expectation was 75,000. We got 38,000, and there was a loss of 16,000 jobs in government, which I think Lauren mentioned. But again, you know, that 22,000 number, Charles, it's a weaker than expected number, and these revisions are pretty brutal.
Yeah, extraordinarily. You know, gone through. I mentioned healthcare, 31,000. The 12-month average is 42,000. That had been obviously a massive driver, and we know the demographic situation there. Just a little disappointed. Manufacturing was hoping to maybe see something there. But it's just, I think for the most part, if there was a whisper number, and I'm sure there was, this might be right where the whisper number is. And this is a sweet spot, I think, from the market's perspective. You can see the major averages are moving higher. It's not so bad that we're thinking recession, but it's bad enough that we think maybe the Fed could be much more accommodative beyond September.
Yeah, and also, too, Jody Biley, labor force participation rate, 62.3%. Your reaction?
Yeah, so we're not seeing much movement in that number, which is disappointing and surprising, to be honest with you, Cheryl, because we're seeing that there is starting to be some increase in the weekly jobless claims. And so I like to look into that number and say, are we seeing more people say they want to participate in the workforce? I also think this report is a little bit more of the same. The jobs are in healthcare, they're in leisure and hospitality. We've lost jobs again in the professional business service sector. We've lost jobs in this report in the temporary help sector, which is not a good sign. So there's a lot of concern. Even though the private payroll number is 38,000, that is still a pretty weak number.
And Jessica, it's of note that Donald Trump handed over 2.4% inflation. Joe Biden skyrocketed it to 8.1%.
What's most
and you touted the jobs report last week. 919,000 jobs evaporated, and it was Joe Biden's
higher numbers on a monthly basis
right,
than Donald Trump. $2,400 extra. You're yelling. You just
crosstalk doesn't change the data. 919,000 jobs evaporated, and it began on Joe Biden's watch.
Trump's economy sucks. Last month, the jobs report was so bad that Donald Trump felt compelled to fire the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics to distract from how bad the report was. This month, the report was equally horrible because it turns out when you fire the head of BLS, that doesn't actually change the rules of math. And as Chairman Aguilar said, unemployment increased and jobs wildly missed expectations in terms of job growth. You then have inflation continue to rise, and you had core CPI last month being quite high, and then certain categories within the economy even exceeding inflation, such as electricity prices. And then you add to that what we learned this week, that the New York Fed survey of worker confidence in getting a new job was the lowest ever in the history of its survey. Now is exactly the wrong time to increase healthcare costs, and that's what Trump and Republicans are doing. Their big, ugly bill not only slashes Medicaid and is going to throw off 15 million people off health care, it also, the way it's written, is going to cause $500 billion in Medicare cuts. And then in addition, ACA premiums are going to rise. And then everyone's employer-based premiums are also going to rise because of the massive cuts to health care across the board. So we're urging Trump and Republicans to reverse course, to focus on reducing prices, and to reverse the devastating health care cuts that they put in.
Well, I think you take the noise out, meaning if the leader is bent against Donald Trump, then they're going to have, such errors, and those things are bent. We've seen that in all sorts of agencies throughout this government. The people, the holdovers from the Biden administration, they're just bent against the president's success. They're rooting against America and against Donald Trump, and that's got to end. So he can't replace somebody, 2 weeks ago, and you expect fundamental change. But what you will get is an agency that's on side, just trying to do the best and put out the correct numbers. And that's what Donald Trump has to do, and that's what this whole cabinet has to do. They have to get rid of people who are against the president, against the elected leader of the United States of America, and get people on side who just want America to win.
When can we expect these numbers to increase?
Well, first, we need accurate numbers. We need truthful and honest data, which is why the president took the monumental step to try and appoint and confirm new leadership at the BLS so we can have data that we can actually rely on. And that's what the president is doing, and we hope that his nominee will soon be confirmed.
Look at the issues. Look at this. These are all the key issues. Donald Trump is underwater on all of them. Trade, obviously, tariffs have been a big thing at the bottom of your list, minus 17 points. The economy, which was the reason he was elected to his second term to fix the economy, way underwater at minus 14 points. Foreign policy, minus 12. And then I think, Mr. John Berman, the key two issues at the top, because these have been Donald Trump's strongest issues, crime and immigration. But get this. He is now underwater on both of these issues, if barely, but he's underwater on crime at minus 2, immigration at minus 3. On all the key issues, he is again swimming with the fishes. Consistency across the board.
It is interesting, though, because the difference here does explain why even with these jobs numbers, which were historically bad on Friday, this is what he's focused on today. He'd rather be talking about this than this.
Absolutely.
On the U.S. economy, there were 22,000 jobs added last month. The past 2 months of data were also revised down. You've said in interviews this week it suggests there's less momentum here than you thought. Has job creation stalled, and should the Federal Reserve be concerned about the jobs picture?
Right. Well, first of all, the interesting thing about the jobs numbers, right, is that they had the biggest revisions in 50 years over the summer. And we came in with 22,000 in August. But if you look at what they said in 23 and 24, they have two ways of estimating the jobs. There's something called the payroll survey, where they ask the employers, how many people did you hire? Then they have something called the household survey, where they call up people and they say, do you have a job?
Right.
And over those 2 years, the payroll numbers said that we created 4.5 million jobs. And the household survey said about 2 million fewer, about 2.5 million jobs. And they should have the same answer. And so for August, for example, the payroll survey said 22,000 and the household survey said 288,000. And so I think that what's going on is that these old-fashioned ways of surveying, like I wonder if you've ever gotten a survey in the mail and filled it out and mailed it back in. Maybe you have, but I think that that's the way they're trying to do it. And the reason we're getting these massive revisions and these numbers that don't make sense is really that we've got to modernize the way we do the labor data. But if you look at the non-labor data, second quarter GDP was revised up to 3.3%. The Atlanta Fed's GDP estimate for the third quarter right now is 3%. And so industrial production's at an all-time high.
But you believe all that data? All those models are functioning?
No, the point is when there's dissonance in data, that you have to sort of watch how it all works out.
Got it.
And the thing that I'm most suspicious of right now in terms of data quality is the job number, in part because there are other ways to do it. There's this company called Homebase that does it. Their August number is 150. But again, even think about this. If we ask households how many jobs do they have, it's plus 288,000 in August. If we ask the employers, it's 22,000. Then that becomes a puzzle for economists. Like, what is wrong with the data? And we kind of know what's wrong with the data. What's wrong with the data is people aren't filling out the forms and sending in the survey.
The Trump administration has been busy trying to downplay disastrous jobs numbers by suggesting that it's the numbers that are wrong. We here in America have trusted the Bureau of Labor Statistics for over 135 years. But now, all of a sudden, Trump is in office and no institution can be trusted. Republicans have gotten very comfortable blaming every problem their base is facing on the Democratic Party. It's their reflex. It's their little security blankie, their answer to everything. But here we are, more than 200 days into Trump's presidency, and things are looking incredibly bleak. The promises haven't materialized, the cracks are widening, and the excuses are running out. Instead of changing course, or even attempting the usual half-hearted spin, they've decided to go with something bolder. Flat-out denial. Any evidence that things aren't working? Doesn't exist. Any facts that contradict these narratives? Fake news. And when the data still shows up anyway, they just fire the people running the agencies that collect it. It's the kind of logic that only makes sense if you've never had to face real consequences.